We had an investor not long ago that was like, what are you going to do when you get pregnant? I see so many businesses that fail with co-founders because people aren't aligned. And I think with the business, like, you've got to be life aligned. So you've got to want exactly the same thing. So we've raised 500,000. But I think if you like live by the stats, then you're never going to do anything because you'd be too scared. And I think when you see these awful stats, you think, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to do it. But if you don't do anything about it, then the stats aren't going to change. So you need to be like, okay, these are the stats, but we're going to be the people that change this industry.
When you go into something with ignorance, it
Yeah.
gives you another level of audacity as well. And you need the audacity to get where you need to get to.
My legs, do you know when they're just shaking? You can't control it. It was very scary.
Like, you're actually that girl. Love real women stories that help you grow? Hit subscribe and follow, and let's level up together. Now back to the episode. Welcome, I'm Paula Oyencourt, and this is the Paula Oyencourt Show, where our mission is to inspire women like you to become the best version of yourself at every stage of life. Today, I'm joined by the boss babe, that is Nicola Gunby. Nicola is the co-founder of Cliq, which is an app that is redefining the way people make meaningful connections. Is that right, Nicola?
Yes.
I feel like I kind of skewed away from my script that I told you, but
I love it.
that hits the nail on the head, right?
It does, yes. And thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to get you to pick some conversation cards. I always say this is the favorite part for me because I just think it's a fun little
I'm
way.
intrigued. Okay, just one?
Yeah, just pick one.
Which one is?
And then answer the question that's on it.
Oh, how can women reclaim power in male-dominated spaces?
See, I always say people get the perfect question for them.
Because we've been talking about stuff like this today. How can women reclaim power in male-dominated spaces? I think the main one's like supporting other women. I always say that with like business, being a founder, investment, or anything. Like, I think we need to support each other more, and that's how we bring each other up, and that's how we help each other. Like, we were just talking about the stats on like female funding, but the only way that we can get them stats to increase is by becoming founders ourselves, raising investment ourselves, but also supporting other people that are doing it so we can get to the top. So I think that's a really interesting card, because literally what we were just speaking about, but it's definitely about like building your own communities, supporting other people is really important.
Absolutely. And I really do believe each question each guest picks is perfect, because you're in tech. That's heavily male dominated. So you're literally speaking from experience with that.
Yeah, 100%. I've been in so many rooms and so many places where I'm the only woman. And I think that's what happens in certain industries. It's definitely getting better. And I think there's more women now that are going into the tech space. But I think when I first started, I felt like I was the only one, which can be quite daunting and quite scary.
I can imagine. I'm going to go all the way back.
Okay.
In your own words, who is Nicola?
Oh, gosh. Deep question. So I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a second-time entrepreneur. So I've had 2 businesses that I run with my co-founder, but also partner, Jason. And then who am I? That's a really tough question, because I feel like when you're a business, your identity is your business.
Yeah, that's
But it's not the case. But like when you introduce yourself in a room, you always say, oh, I'm Nicola, I'm the founder of. Whereas that's not your identity. And I think I've struggled with that in the past, like switching my identity from my business and from myself. Because when you work on something every single day, it's very all-consuming. So I do associate myself with that. But outside of that, like, I love, oh my God, it's so hard.
I'm so surprised that you're finding it hard. No,
Yeah.
do you know what? I'm not surprised, but then I kind of am, because I follow you on social media, obviously. I've seen that you've been running, like you like running.
I do. I'm very into fitness. I love running. I love wellness. I love matcha. I love shopping.
Who doesn't love matcha?
Sounds like a very girly girl. But yeah, I feel like a lot of my time is spent building the business. But when I'm not working, I do want to be like out and doing things. So I feel like it takes you away from the environment. So yeah, I just ran a half marathon, which was another big challenge. And I've got into running more now. But like, I think the best ideas also for business come when you take yourself out of the situation. Like, the best ideas don't come from being sat in front of your laptop. And sometimes you can be sat there and nothing's really happening. So I think you do need to get yourself out. So I'm very conscious of, in my spare time, getting away from the laptop. Because when you're at home and you're just chilling, I feel like I should be working all the time.
Oh my gosh, I feel the same way. And do you know what? I think it's actually problematic.
Yeah.
Because it's not normal. And have you heard of Tamu Thomas?
No.
She does I think you'd like her. She wrote a book called Women Who Work Too Much. And she talks about like rest and all of these things. And sure it's the same for you, but like when I'm in the shower or when I go for a walk, that's always when I get the best
Yes.
ideas. Like not when I'm just sat there trying
Yeah.
to think of an idea.
Exactly. And I think because we work from home a lot now and the work, like the home is the office, it's very hard to switch off at the end of the day. So I do find myself just working and working and working till I go to bed. But it's just ingrained in me because there's no switch off point. It's not like you're going from the office and then going home and then you
Yeah.
have your evening. Everything's so intertwined. So I feel like I'm trying to be more conscious now to take myself out of the work environment. Also rest is such a big one. Like I've
It
been
is.
burnt out so many times and
Oh my
learned so many
goodness.
lessons that yeah, rest and recuperation is so important.
Yeah. And do you know what else I think makes it hard is when you're building something that you love and you're very passionate about, you actually want to work
Yeah.
on it as well. So like you don't mind
Yeah.
working late because you want to do it, but it's actually not healthy
Exactly. Yeah.
if you do it all the time.
Yeah, when something's your baby and it's like you're so passionate about it, and then obviously me and Jason were a couple, but we also have a business together. It's
Yeah.
very all consuming. But then at the same time, I love it because we've built something so amazing and we're so proud of it and so passionate. So why would we not want to work on it and talk about it every single minute of every day? But then there's that con of it kind of becoming your identity.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you had another business
Yes.
before. So tell us the journey. How did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I kind of didn't have a clue what I wanted to do. Didn't think I'd really do anything, to be honest. And then decided to go traveling. So that was our big thing. I was just like, I know I need to get out of the situation I'm in. We live in a very smallish town where everyone does the same thing. And I was like, I know there's just so much more out there. So we were like 21, I think, and decided to book a one-way flight to Thailand. Classic, like what everyone does at that
Yeah.
age. But for us, it was just massively pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone. And we ended up staying away for 3 years. So we did some traveling around Southeast Asia. And then we actually moved to Australia for 2 years, which when I look back, I'm so glad I did it at that point in my life because we had no responsibilities, nothing to do. Like we didn't have jobs. We come straight out of like education. So it was the perfect time for us to try something new, but also being immersed in a city where you don't know no one and it's 24 hours away on a flight was the best thing we could do because we learned so much about ourselves and learned what we wanted to be, basically, and kind of reinvent yourself as well.
Yeah.
And we're both very entrepreneurial. So the whole time we were away, we were talking about like, we want to start a business. We didn't think it'd be together. That wasn't really a plan, but we knew we wanted to do something. Just had that kind of entrepreneurial spirit in us. And when we were in Melbourne, I was a makeup artist and I wanted to pursue this freelance career. I had kind of like a job in a store at the same time. I was like, I really want to get clients. I want to get like bridal clients, girls going out on the weekend, all of that kind of thing. And I really struggled because I didn't know anyone. And when you're in the beauty industry, a lot of it's so word of mouth. So like
Yeah.
you trust someone because your friend's been to them, or even like social media. But social media like wasn't, it was obviously around, but it wasn't like a huge thing like it is now. And I was spending so much money on like ads trying to get myself out there. I was like, wow, I'm massively out of pocket trying to find clients. Why is there not somewhere where I put my service on and people can book me? And everything was so like salon heavy at the time. And this was before COVID. So I feel like after COVID, the industry massively changed. But at the time, everyone was promoting salons, salon platforms, all of that kind of stuff. I was like, there's nothing for freelancers. And freelancers are the one that need the most help because they're the ones marketing themselves, spending money on marketing themselves, even like doing their own taxes, setting up their business, all of these things. And you don't get taught that in education.
You
You
don't.
kind of just chucked into the world. And if you want to become self-employed, you just got to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that was my first taste, I think, of entrepreneurship was being freelance and realizing, okay, I like this. I like owning my own time. Maybe I could have my own business. And basically went to Jason one day. I was like, I've got an idea for a platform where I put my services on and people book me. And he was like, there must be things out there. And looked and there wasn't really anything. There was these huge platforms like Treatwell and Fresher that are very much salon platforms, but there's nothing for freelancers. So like, okay, let's go for it. Try and build it ourselves. When I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, how did we even go from having an idea to starting something with zero business experience, zero tech experience? But I think like we live in a world where everything's so accessible.
It
Like you
is.
can, if you want to learn something, you can learn something through the internet, YouTube, podcasts, books, everything. You can learn how to build a business. And very scrappy. I look back and I'm like, I don't know how the hell I got where I am today because the first product we had was awful. It was the worst brand I've ever seen. I
Yeah.
don't even know if Canva was a thing. Like, I don't even know what we used to create, but it looked awful. But it really worked. And I think because I was a makeup artist, I knew where those makeup artists were hanging out. So I knew what I wanted to see. I knew what features that I wanted. So it's basically me solving a personal problem. And then, yeah, we came back to the UK just before COVID, very luckily. And after COVID, the business really took off because I think a lot of a lot of businesses went self-employed. So a lot of the salons decided to shut down because they didn't want overheads. A lot of people were doing side hustles. So doing like nails on the side, hair on the side. And then I think as a customer, you were more likely to book an independent professional in your local town than go to a chain salon because you wanted to support local freelancers. So it really took off after that. And then very shortly we got an acquisition, which was amazing, not really on the cards at the time, and didn't really think it was something that could happen to us. But yeah, we got approached for an acquisition, and then we moved on to London, and we were working with an office team, everything, all the customers, all the suppliers, everything that this business had. We just tapped into their infrastructure. So it gave us so much security and safety. But then we decided to stay for about a year, and then we decided to part ways. And it was amazing. I look back and it was such a good journey. We learned so much. I'm very proud of being able to build something to an exit within 3 years. But also look back and I'm like, how did we even do that? We were like making so many mistakes. It was really, really scrappy. But I think that's one of the best things you can do when you first start a business, because you got to learn somehow, and it allows you to learn, it allows you to grow, and it allows you to evolve.
It really does. And you know what? I feel like when you go into something with ignorance, it gives you another level of audacity as well. And you need the audacity to get where you need to get to. What was the acquisition process like? So you said that somebody approached you and you said it wasn't on the cards at the time. So how did it come about?
So we were looking for investments. We're looking for Asian investors. And that was, like 3 months of just pitching our heart and soul away, trying to get as many connections as possible. We're doing like 5 pitches a day at one point, and every single one was saying no. And we're like, wow, this is relentless. I think that was my first taste of kind of like rejection a little bit with business. And it hits really hard. It's tough when you're being told no every single day. And I think first starting us out as well, I didn't really have a thick skin because I was very naive and was like, oh, everyone's going to love the business. Everyone's going to want to put money in, all of that kind of thing. And when it comes down to it, it's very difficult to raise funding. And I didn't realize that. So in a way, glad I was naive because maybe I wouldn't have started doing it if I knew how hard it was going to be. And yeah, we were pitching every single day and just not getting anywhere. And then after 3 months, we had 3 offers. Some was individual angel investors, and then one was the acquisition. But that came from me just reaching out to everyone on LinkedIn, like anyone that had a beauty brand, anyone that was an investor, anyone that looked like they had money, and just sending them cold outreach and seeing what came back. And the one that did the acquisition, came back, which was amazing. But like for us, we just didn't expect it. We didn't anticipate it. We're like, okay, we're going to get some investment and we're going to build and grow out on our own. And it would have been a steady growth. But for us, that injection of capital, but also their infrastructure just made so much sense. It was a deal that we couldn't really turn down.
How do you know when your business is acquisition ready? Because I guess you guys didn't, but now looking back, how do you know?
I think it's different for everyone. I think for us, we went with someone that really understood the industry, so a beauty company. They also were interested in our data, so they wanted to know what data we had, what beauty professionals booking what and where. And then we also wanted to put a professional community together. I think back then, community wasn't really a thing. Like obviously it was around, but no one was really building communities, whereas now brands are all thinking about community. But back then they weren't. And we were like, look, you're missing a massive mark here of a professional community. You've got this amazing customer community. There's professionals that will be buying your products on repeat, creating content for you, being involved in your events, everything that you're missing out on. So we help them to build that professional community. So I think it's different for each business. Like the stage we were at 2 years in, we probably weren't ready. But when the opportunity comes knocking, you kind of can't turn it down. And we were ready in some ways, that we were ready to grow ourselves. We were ready to push ourselves to the next step. The business was ready in terms of the platform and who we had on there and the amount of users. Maybe we weren't ready in the terms of how long we've been running the business, scale and that type of thing. But that's what they wanted to help us with.
And that's quite nice.
Yeah.
I think it's such an interesting journey to hear somebody who's been on this path. But now obviously you're building Cliq. So you're building now from a place of knowledge. How does that differ from when you started your first company?
Oh, so much different. I feel like I'm way more confident, way more thick-skinned. Like if someone told me no, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Move on to the next one. It's okay. Like I'm not going to cry about it. Whereas the first one, everyone that told me no, I probably cried about it straight afterwards. But now I think you get over that kind of rejection a little bit. You make so many mistakes in the first business. Like when we had the first business, I didn't even know how to set up a business. I didn't know like about like all of the accounting, HMRC, the taxes, all of that kind of stuff. So you kind of had to learn that ourselves. Whereas this one, it's just like we were so much more well equipped. We knew how to start a business. We knew the first step to take. We knew the platforms to use. We knew everything. Whereas now I feel like we've got to a stage with Cliq where we're learning new things again, which is quite a nice, exciting place to be. But it just shows that you're in a different position now and that we're growing really quickly. Whereas with the first business, we made all of these mistakes. This one, we made no mistakes in the beginning because we'd already made them. But now we're starting to make different mistakes at a different level. But I just think like, they're just obstacles. They're not mistakes. I think it's just ways for you to learn and grow. And it proves that you're doing something new if you're starting to make new mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the new mistakes that you've made?
Oh, gosh. Good question. I feel like because we've raised our first round with Cliq, and now we're raising a bigger round. And a lot of that's looking at US. And we've never done any business in the US. I've never even been to the US, but we're going to be raising out there and launching out there. So that's a whole new territory. So even just learning about that and all the different things that go into that is really interesting and things that we've never come across before. I'd say like the scale of the platform, the scale of the tech, like we have probably 100 times more users than we did on the first app. It's very different. It's more consumer facing, whereas the other one was really beauty professionals and customers. This one is all communities and consumers. And it's grown really, really quickly. So there's so many tech issues that we're coming across that we've never discovered before, scalability, that type of thing. But we have an amazing tech team that can handle it. But it's still like we want to be involved in these conversations because we want to learn, so we know we don't make those same mistakes again. And I think like so many things, hiring, marketing, just testing and learning. So many different things, see what works and seeing what aligns with our audience. A very different audience to the business before. So you have to speak to them in a different way, different tone of voice, different branding, and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, so many mistakes.
I'm just so interested in this because a tech app is like, it's not an easy thing to build an app.
No.
Like, and me personally, I've had a few businesses on the side that I've done here and there, but none of them have ever been tech. Even this, what I'm doing, it's not tech. So I'm just so intrigued by the fact that you guys have built an app.
Yeah.
And people are using it.
It's wild.
What is the process of creating an app?
Oh, it's crazy. And I think when you're not from the tech world, it can feel like loads of jargon. And I think now we're so much more well-equipped speaking to technical developers and stuff like that because they do speak a different language.
Yeah.
At the beginning, I was like, what the hell does that mean? Like, why is he speaking to me in these weird, like, jargon terms? But now we understand it. I think you just got to find someone you trust to build it. Like, you don't need to be technical. Neither me and Jason are technical. I wish we were more technical. It would have made life so much easier. There's so many amazing tech people out there. It's just finding them. And I think it's about finding the right person that can build it for you and that you can lean on as well. At the same time as building it, Jason learned how to design himself. Because typically when you work with agencies, you tell them your idea and they present something to you. And a lot of the time, it's not what you envisioned. Because what you have in your head, even if I explain something to you now, you're going to have a totally different vision of how that looks. And you can't get inside someone's head. So even just by designing the app and giving it to developers, that takes out that middleman and takes out the back and forth and the time and the pressure. But that's something we learned with the first business because we had so many issues with that side of things. So now Jason designing the app takes that situation out. And I think it's also finding people that have built similar things to you and just in your different industries, finding someone that has different case studies that you can go off of. I think it's really important when you're finding someone technical.
No, I love this. And oh, gosh, I feel like there's always so much to unpack. And I'm jumping from one thing to another based on what you've said. So obviously, this is a tech company. You're a woman, and there's a lot of conversations around women in tech. You mentioned at the start of this that, you know, you've been in rooms where you're literally the only woman there. What is your experience of being a woman in tech? And also, what is your experience of being a woman that's raising funds for her business?
Yeah, I think it's obviously difficult.
Yeah.
But I think if you like live by the stats, then you're never gonna do anything because you'd be too scared. And I think when you see these awful stats, you think, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna be able to do it. But if you don't do anything about it, then the stats aren't gonna change. So you need to be like, okay, these are the stats, but we're gonna be the people that change this industry. I think that's a really important mindset to have. But yeah, there's been so many occasions with like investors that have made comments towards me. Like we had an investor not long ago that was like, well, what are you going to do when you get pregnant?
Oh my
And I was like, that's literally none of your business.
Oh
like
my
I literally could be pregnant now. Like how do you know? Like you have no
Yeah.
idea. And I think it's just, especially with investment, a lot of them are pretty old school in how they run. And I just don't think they get it. Even though like investors are really trying, I'd say like there's been a lot of funds that have came out that were investing like X amount of millions into female founder businesses. But then they go to the funds, that money does, and the funds don't know what to do with it. And they're still picking them same businesses over and over again. And it's really hard when you're in the early stages, because in the early stages, it's all about the vision, the mission, the dream, the team, who you are as a founder, what you've done before. Whereas I think when you get to the stage where we're at now, it's like metrics. They want to know how much you're making, how many users you have, what's your daily active users, all of that type of thing. And it's less about the dream and about the vision. So I always thought the first stage was going to be the hardest, but it's actually that middle stage where you're not at a point where it's like Series A and you've got all this traction. It's that midpoint where you've got to prove yourself constantly. And that's what it feels like a lot of the time with investors. And I think especially as a female, I always really try and reach out to female investors or investors that are focusing on female founders. There's not many of them out there, and it's really quite hard to find. And then you have this massive pool of women that are all searching for the same thing. So the competition's so much higher. Whereas the other side of things, there's so many businesses and so many investors. So it's really difficult to be in that space where everyone's fighting for the same thing. And I mean, it's not all been negative. There's so many positives. Like, we've got some amazing investors on board now that love that it's female and male co-founders as well. I think what we've found is having a female and a male co-founder is such a superpower, because there's people that I can talk to that Jason can't talk to. Like, the majority of our app is females. So we're like 90% female, which is amazing, because I'm all about like, how do we create safe spaces for women? But like, Jason couldn't go and talk to a female run club and convince them to sign up, or like a mum club or something like that, whereas I can do that. Whereas Jason can speak to their male communities. We're speaking to a lot of like male mental health communities and that type of thing. If I was to approach them, I can't relate. So it's like Jason can relate to some people and I can relate to some people. And same with investors. Like, I really relate to female investors, whereas he can speak to more male investors. And it's just interesting to have both dynamics, whereas not a lot of businesses have that. And I do think even like corporate companies, they should have a majority of both at the top, because you both bring different skill sets as well. And the ways that you look at things, like Jason looks at things very differently because he's a man than I look at things as a woman. And we're both learning about that. Like, there's certain things that I didn't know about the way that men do things, and there's certain things that he didn't know about how women do things. So it's really interesting to learn about both sides of the spectrum as well.
And we were talking about this earlier about how having a male co-founder, whether or not you feel like that's helped in terms of securing funding.
I think so. I think because the majority of the men are investors. We have a decent amount of female investors, which I'm really proud of, but majority is men. And it's like when they go on a Zoom call and just start talking about like football or something. Like, it's that common interest, and it's something that bonds them straight away. Whereas me jumping on a call with a man, like, there's just no relatability. So I think it has helped in certain situations. It shouldn't make a difference, but it definitely does help with the investment landscape. And I think it is getting better. I do see there's a lot of amazing females that are raising so much money. I'm like, wow, this is so inspirational. And it's that thing, you've just got to be the one to change it.
Yeah, it's so true. And do you feel like when you have had female investors, it has made a big difference in terms of the communication and the things like that? Like, obviously, you mentioned somebody else. What about when you get pregnant?
Yeah.
What's the dynamic like when you're speaking to a female investor
I
versus
mean,
a male one?
they'd never ask that question, would they? They just know to never ask that question, because why would you? Female investors, yeah, I'd say very different. I'd say they're more bothered about who you are as founders, and they want to know about the story, and they want to know how you got here, and they want to know about the impact, and they're really passionate about that. Whereas men tend to focus on like financials, all that kind of stuff, and the growth and the scale. I think it's really nice to have that side of women involved, because it's easier to talk to. It's easier to relate to. They understand, especially because the majority of our audience are female. They think, wow, this is so amazing. And they think about like, I'd love this space. My daughters, my sister, whoever it was, would love to join the app. And it's just really nice to see that you're really making an impact in that space. Whereas very different with men, they're just more focused on, I'd say, yeah, like metrics and all the boring stuff.
Numbers.
Yeah.
But how much have you raised so far for Cliq?
So we've raised 500,000.
That's amazing.
Yes.
But you know what? I think it was a LinkedIn post that you did, and you said something like, someone said, oh, is that all? Or something like that.
Yeah, so we had a feature in like CNBC, which is so random because it's really not our target audience at all. And it went live, and then a week later they put it on their socials, and they had like 3 million followers. I work with them on, and I was like, what is going on? And it was because they posted me on there, and they literally had a picture of like Donald Trump on the other post, and then me. And I was like, this is so random that they've actually put me on here? Because also we're not really in the US yet, but all the comments were men. It was middle-aged American men with no profile picture or like private accounts. And they were just like slating me. And it was like, oh, this isn't even that much money, or maybe her daddy helped her. All of these things. And I was like, wow. And there was like hundreds of comments and every single one was a man.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there was like a couple of women in there like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then obviously all my friends and people that I knew jumped on it and was like putting things in there. But yeah, it was all. But I was thinking, like, these aren't my target audience.
Yeah, that's so true.
So you've got to kind of like take yourself away from that. And I was like, these people are never going to download Cliq. These people also haven't read the article at all. They were trying to compare us to like Facebook, Reddit, all these platforms. Like, how do you think you're going to take over £1 billion platforms?
My goodness.
And like, we're creating a whole new wave for connection. We're not trying to take anything away from anyone. It's so different to what anyone else is doing. But they just saw the title and jumped straight in. I was like, you haven't even read the article, clearly. But it was, yeah, I think like if that happened in the first business, I probably would have cried for like 3 days. But with this one, I think just having supportive people around me, like having Jason, having the team, even just like having people around me that support me were like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. I had so many messages like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm actually fine. Like, I'm actually sat laughing at it. But it was, it was definitely an eye opener. And like press can massively do that. I think with press, you've got to find press that really aligns with your brand, same target audience. Otherwise, you're probably just going to get slated, which is quite sad. And I always think like, I feel for influencers and I feel for celebrities, like waking up every morning and seeing those comments. Like they must just have to what's the word?
Compartmentalize.
That's the word from it, totally, and disassociate themselves. Because otherwise, like, you never want to leave the house or do anything. It's really sad.
I feel like people on social media, they're always very quick to comment and they don't really think, well, I think the ones that post negatively, they don't really think about it. But in terms of like CNBC, how did they find you? And then also, what was the title of the article that kind of provoked that response?
Yeah, they found us because a journalist was in an audience when we pitched on stage. So we pitched at like a Revolut event in front of like Stephen Bartlett and the founder of Revolut and Alex Scott, which was amazing. It was incredible. It was in front of like hundreds of people and it was live streamed. Probably one of the scariest moments of my life. I didn't think I was nervous. And then they put you in this like little curtain and this man gives you these mics and literally like pushes you out on stage. My legs, do you know when they're just shaking? You can't control it. It was very scary, but it was really good because we got so much from it. And one thing we got from it was a journalist was in the audience. She was like, I love what you're doing. Can I write an article on you? And then she interviewed me over the phone. So the article was amazing. It was everything that I wanted. It was just that social media post. And it was literally a picture of me. And it said like 30-year-old female entrepreneur raises £500,000 for her social networking app or something. So it was very much like money driven. Even my age and being female was on there. And I always thought, I wonder if that was Jason's face and about him, would he have had those comments?
So true.
Probably
I
not.
doubt it.
Yeah.
That is so true. I didn't even think about that, but it's actually very true.
Yeah.
It's crazy how these little things make such a big difference. And I think it is that unconscious bias as well, because if you were to say that to these people in the comments, they'll probably be like, oh no, it's got nothing to do with that. But in reality, it does.
Yes, it does. And I did think about, do I reply to each one of these comments?
I wouldn't even, honestly, some people, like, to be fair, I've not had like negative comments on the content that I put out, but here and there I do get people just saying crazy stuff. And I think I would just give like a smart response, something like that. I think I did an episode, the first episode we released was with Charlotte Stavru. She's got her own influencer. Do you know Charlotte? Yes. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I feel like Charlotte knows everyone and you do too. And she was obviously talking about like the issue of diversity in influencer marketing. And then I got a couple of comments on some of the shorts that I did saying like, oh, this is a bunch of crap or something like that. I said, oh, really? I'd love to hear your thoughts on why. Like, because people just talk without really thinking. And for me, it's like Charlotte is a professional on this. She's not just speaking from a place of, oh, I think this. She's speaking from a place of facts. Whereas the people in the comments, you're just kind of going off of the propaganda that you see online. So anyway, let's move away from this. I want to talk about I want to talk about the fact that you're building a business and you've built a business with your partner. Like, is it advisable?
It is depending on who you are. I think it doesn't work for everyone. It is very much like make or break, I do think. And I've heard a lot of stories where it doesn't work. I've also heard a lot of stories where it does work. And I think for me and Jason, we've been together for so long. So we got together at school. We did the whole traveling thing together. So we spent so much time, just me and him. And I think with the business, like it's all about that trust.
Yeah.
Like if you're finding a co-founder, you need someone that you really trust and that really gets it. I think like if I come home at the end of the day and I'm in a really bad mood, he's probably gonna know why, because he's been through it as well in some way. And then at the same time, like when you have these amazing things happen, like the investment and stuff like that, you can actually really celebrate together. Whereas sometimes when you go home to your partner, you're like, oh my God, this happened today. And they're like, great.
Yeah.
And then just like move on. Just like, I'm going to cook dinner now. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't get it. Whereas if you have the same day to day, then you understand. But it is like you share the highs and you also share the lows. So it is tough when things aren't going the right way. But me and Jason are very good at like bringing each other up. So like if I know that he's having a really bad day, I'm like, right, okay, I need to be on it a little bit more and I need to bring him up. And same with him. If I'm having a really bad day, then he helps bring me up. And that's something that we've learned. I think with the first business, we learned so much about who we were and what we want our roles to be and like how we even acted in business. So now we have very separate roles and we stick to those. And obviously you oversee the same things, and obviously we work from home quite a lot of the time, or we're out and about a lot of the time. So we do talk about a lot of the stuff. But like I don't need to see his emails or be on his meetings, and he's the same with mine, because it's just one, a waste of time. But two, like I don't really care about the tech that much. I feel bad saying that.
I think that's fair.
But yeah, I don't really want to be on the tech calls and running the tech. Like I know he's really strong at that. I know that's what he enjoys. Whereas for me, it's more like partnerships, marketing, creative. Like I love that and I really thrive off that. And that's something that he gets involved with sometimes, but not all the time. And we do have our separate roles, which does help. So I think you have to look at your relationship and like, what have you done in the past? Have you done things together and you've worked really well as a team? Maybe like how long you've been together, I think makes difference. A lot of investors, when they find out we're a couple, they're like, oh, how long have you been together? I'm like, oh, like 12 years. I'm like, okay, fine. To them, it's like if I got with him yesterday and we started a business together, then they'd be skeptical.
Yeah.
But I think as well, like I see so many businesses that fail with co-founders because people aren't aligned. I think with the business, like you've got to be life aligned. So you've got to want exactly the same thing. Whereas sometimes with co-founders that have different relationships, different families, different priorities, as time goes on, you realize, okay, maybe I don't want this anymore. Maybe I want to start a family, or maybe like I really want to go for it. I want to sell the business, but the other person doesn't want to. Maybe we want to get investment. Everything can be a mismatch. Whereas for me and Jason, it's like our life choices are very similar. So we know that it's going to be really well aligned.
But how do you then create boundaries? Because again, we've spoken about how like, because you love your business, you're passionate about it, you just work on it nonstop, you talk to each other about it nonstop. But where do you like break that? At what point do you guys just be Nicola and Jason?
Good question. Maybe never. I'd say when we're like away from the laptop.
Okay.
So like I said at the beginning, very conscious of like if I have some free time and I don't want to be work related, like let's go out for dinner, let's go out for brunch, let's go for a walk, let's go into the city, let's do something, because you don't have those distractions of the laptop being in the way. So I think that's the main one. We used to try and like switch off the laptop at night and then like have a night chilling, and we'd still both be thinking about business. Whereas I'm like, okay, if we get out and do something different, it's going to take our mind off it. But yeah, it's hard. I think it's especially because everything's so easily accessible through your phone. Like even holidays, things like that, you end up seeing work stuff. Like you can't escape it at all unless you literally deleted all of your apps. Like you'd have to delete your emails, you have to delete all your social media, you have to delete your WhatsApp to be fully taken away from it. Like recently we went on a retreat together, which was so nice. It was like a business, but also wellness retreat. And they didn't really have any Wi-Fi. I was like, this is perfect because it's actually forcing us to not work. Whereas if it had Wi-Fi, you'd be like opening your phone and then you'd be on Instagram, all these different platforms, and you'd be seeing just so much about the business and be like, I need to reply to this, I need to do that. And once you do one thing, you're in. Once you reply to one message, like you can't just stop there. You have to like dive in and do everything. So I think, yeah, taking yourself out of situations is really important.
And have you heard any like common misconceptions about being in a relationship and doing business together that you kind of want to like debunk that you've not experienced?
I think people either love it or they hate it. Like all of our investors love it. And our lead investor actually said to us, when you do investment pitches, make sure you're both there because you really bounce off each other and your energy is great when you're together. And he thinks that's such a good selling point for us. Whereas in my head, I was always like, do we both need to be there? Investors going to find it awkward. But also, people don't know you're a couple straight away. I've had people that I've known for months. And like someone said to me the other day, like, I actually didn't know you and Jason were a couple until I followed you on Instagram and I realized that you lived together. And I was like, what? So I think sometimes like you don't give off that vibe. We're quite professional. Like when we're working together, if we're around other people, we're not going to be like lovey-dovey coupley. Like we're very much keep that separate.
To be fair, I feel like that's understandable because how would you really know if someone's a couple, right?
Exactly.
Unless you're like right in everyone's face with it. But would you?
Yeah, but that would be a bit weird, wouldn't it, as well? You want people to feel comfortable around you as well. It's the main thing.
Exactly. How do you feel like having a business together has strengthened or maybe complicated you guys' relationship?
Oh, I think it's massively brought us together more. I think when you're building something and working on something together, it's so empowering. And it's so nice to see when you're making progress towards these future goals, you can do it together. So it's definitely strengthened us. We very rarely argue. Like if we argue, it's more that we haven't spent enough time together outside of the business. But actual like business things, we're really well aligned. We don't really argue on things. And sometimes I'm like, okay, if he really wants to do something, just let him do it. And he's the same with me. Like, let them do it, let them try it. Like, what's the worst gonna happen? The business isn't gonna fail because you decided to make that one decision and let them do something. And if they make a mistake, then you can always help them to do better. I think we're always like, how do we help each other become better? And I think even with me like doing more podcasts and stuff like that, he's super supportive and like wants me to put myself out there more and is like cheering from the sidelines. Whereas I think some people get a little bit jealous of stuff like that in co-founder relationships. If one person's more prominent and get more opportunities, the other person's like, why am I not getting that? And they get really jealous. Whereas I think when you're in a relationship, you can't really get jealous of each other. It wouldn't make sense.
Because you kind of, your strengths are potentially the other person's weaknesses.
Yes.
So you, what is it? I'm trying to, like, you strengthen each other in a
100%.
way.
You do. Yeah, you do.
I love that. So I wanted to ask like a couple more questions. I know we don't have a lot of time left. But firstly, how much are you currently raising for the business? Because you said you're in the process of fundraising again.
Yeah, so we're raising 2 million,
Oh,
which is a huge amount. And
okay.
going to the US for it as well, which is exciting. Obviously, I feel like they have such a bigger risk.
Yeah.
Whereas the UK, a little bit more risk averse. They're a little bit more scared. Whereas the US, they're like, yeah, this is cool. And they're just like happy to connect you with anyone, is what I've learned in the past like couple of months. So yeah, going to be going out to the US to raise some of that as well.
Oh, that is exciting.
Yes.
I feel like you guys are definitely going to do it because, I mean, you've got the experience. You're already doing great things. Why not?
Yeah, hopefully. It's all going well so far. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of, like I said, rejection all the time that you just got to get over. But then when you have that, when you've done it and you have the end goal secured, like you look back and you're like, oh, I'm so glad I went through all that because it feels so much more worth it.
It really does. And one thing that you want women watching this episode to take away from our conversation today?
Oh, I think that you can really do anything if you put your mind to it. Like if you really want to do something, you've got that like idea that's keeping you up at night, you can't stop thinking about, there's a massive gap in the market and you want to do it, I think just go for it. Like you really just have to. I think life's too short. Like I always think when I'm like 80 years old, if I look back on my life, am I going to have regrets? And you only regret the things that you didn't do. And I think just try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. Like you've tried it, you can do something new. It's not that that's going to be the only thing. And I always think that there's always a backup plan. There's always something else you can fall back onto. But I think if you don't try it, you can have them thoughts in the back of your mind for so long, thinking, I wish I did it. I wish I did it. And no time's the perfect time. There's always going to be some excuse. So I think just go for it.
I feel like you've just gone into my mind and taken that out. I'm such a just go for it kind of person because what have you got to lose?
Exactly. And you figure out along the way. Like I was very inexperienced when I started my first business. Like I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh. But then it got me where I am today. And you kind of don't know until you start it what's going to happen and what path it's going to lead you down.
Exactly. This is the thing. And I feel like sometimes we have that fear of failure or even sometimes the fear of success as well.
Yeah.
But really and truly, I'd say from my personal experience with like the businesses I've done in the past that haven't really gone as well as I would have liked them to, it's really enabled me to just apply all of my learnings into what I'm doing now. So there's always elevation, I would say, at each stage.
Yeah. And there's always a silver lining. I think if something doesn't work out, then it wasn't meant to be because it's passed you on to something new and that'll be even bigger than the first thing was anyway. So I think there's always a silver lining with those things.
Exactly. Nicola, thank you so much.
Thank you.
What projects are you working on? What's next for Cliq? And how can people connect with
Yeah, so I said we're doing this big US
you?
expansion at the moment, which is exciting. The whole investment raise, just building the app, want to get it in front of as many hands as possible. We really want to be like that household name you think about building a community, starting a community, joining a community. You come to Cliq. And yeah, social channels. So we're Find Your Cliq on Instagram, and on App Store and Android, it's just Cliq. You can download it. And then my personal Instagram is Nicola Gunby.
Amazing. Thank you.